I passed one of those laws in Nebraska that protects children under the age of 18 from receiving gender-affirming care and hormones. Because I've seen.
And you're proud of that.
Yes, I am very proud of that.
I am so ashamed of you.
Because I have friends who had their first experience.
Welcome back to my channel. Guys, I'm annoyed. I just filmed a video earlier today that I just finished editing, all done. I'm like, all right, now I can relax, chillax, watch some Netflix and chill. And then I look on my YouTube timeline and I see that a new video was just dropped by Jubilee entitled Liberal Gays versus Conservative Gays. And I told myself, you know what? I'm not gonna react to this. I'm gonna chill, it's my day off. I've already worked today, I'm cool. And then I started watching the video and after like 10 minutes in, I was like, pause. I gotta react to this because I got things to say. They always get me. So this video is going to be my raw reaction. I'm not gonna react to the entire video because that will be just way too long. So I'm gonna pick certain segments that I feel are important, that I found to be the most interesting, that I can comment on and talk about with you guys. Before I get started though, I'm gonna show you guys the topics that each segment is broken down into. Some of them I won't be reacting to, but I'm gonna give a quick analysis. So the first prompt is the gay community is over-sexualized. Yes. Next. The next one is pride is still necessary. I interpret that as the Pride Parade, the Pride Month. I disagree. Pride is not necessary. I think that a person's sexuality does not define them. It may be a part of who they are, but it is not all that they are. And when you assign an entire month to a person's sexuality, what you say is my identity is linked to my sexuality. And that's all that people see, especially with the flags, the representation. It's everywhere. And it becomes almost a gimmick and no one takes you seriously because all they see is your sexuality. Now, if you're a straight person and you walk into every room and you say, hi, my name is Leslie and I'm straight, people are gonna look at you like you're crazy. But when it comes to the gay community, it seems that you have to announce your gayness or your sexuality. You gotta put a bumper sticker on your car and let everybody know that you're gay. And I don't understand that mentality at all. I think it's pointless. I think if your sexuality is so linked to your personality that you have to announce it everywhere, then that's a problem within yourself. Why? Why? I understand why it was necessary back in the day when there were no rights, but everyone has rights now. And in fact, I would argue that the LGBTQ alphabet community is almost overrepresented in our society today to overcompensate for the past. And I think that does more harm than good for the community and for any community. Enough already. We don't need to know your preferences. No one needs to know your preferences. Again, if your identity is linked to your sexual preferences, you cannot be shocked when the narrative gets linked to oversexualization. Because why are you linking your personality with your sexuality? One does not have to do with the other. They're separate things. Okay, now for the prompt that I am going to react to fully, and that is the third prompt, which is LGB should be separated from the TQ. I say yes, 1000%, but let's see what they say.
The LGB should be separated from the TQIA+.
Let's go.
Saying they should be separated is not saying that one is, less important.
Yeah, agreed.
So I do want to start with that. But I do think that the LGB is very specific, rooted in science. It's very clear as day. You have lesbian, gay, and bi. Main difference between male and female, we all know what that is.
The reason why I stepped forward with hesitation was because I think that there are such lived differences in experiences that we experience. Although collectively, I think that we all know the collective experience of being a sexual deviant. There just is a difference in lived experience that I think is important to talk about and acknowledge, and that's my grounds for agreeing with perhaps a separation.
Mine is very different. To be clear, the science is very solid on identities other than gender assigned at birth being valid. Science is very clear, robust, there is no question that it's legit. We, as cisgender people, do a really bad...
Pause. The science is not cut and dry, my friend. I'm sorry, that is a liberal talking point, and that's garbage. The science is clear that there is a binary. There is male, there is female, there is XX, and there is XY. That is the science. That's called biology. Now, I understand that there are intersex people in this world. I get it, but intersex people are a very small minority. I've said that a million times on my channel because I already know that somebody in this debate is going to bring intersex people up. I'm pretty sure of it. However, 99% of the population is born either male or female. So for this man to say, the science backs it up, there are more than two genders. No, there's not. And you can't really even have a discussion with somebody with that perspective because it's pretty clear based on how he is even presenting his argument that he's not willing to listen to anybody else. If he truly believes that the science supports more than two genders, again, let's take intersex out of this for a second. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but that's just inaccurate. And that is literally rejecting science to say that the science supports multiple genders. It does not. Politics supports multiple genders. The money that is being made by medical professionals and providers supports that perspective because they're making money. There is money to be made in gender reassignment surgery. So yeah, I don't trust those doctors who have the perspective that there is nothing wrong with doing gender assignment surgery on minors. Now again, adults, I don't care about, do what you want to do. I'm talking about kids. And the reason why this perspective is so important, and it is important to understand the differences between science and feelings, is because when we mesh the two, we stop protecting minors and children. And that is who I'm concerned about. I don't care what Bob, who's 38, does with his body. Do you? But I do care about what Melissa, who is 13, is being taught and indoctrinated into doing with her body. Because there's a clear difference. And the only way that you excuse that type of behavior is by having the perspective that he has that the science supports all of this confusion. It does not. Science is very clear. Let's keep watching.
Do a really bad job of standing up for people who aren't cisgender. I call out the fact that cisgender queer people are treated differently than non-cisgender queer people, and until we do better, we don't deserve to have the letters be together.
Much better grounds.
So, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I think in general this conversation can become very hostile because it seems like, you know, I'm like, oh, I don't want you to be a part, like, I don't want you to be my friend, I don't want to be with you, be next to you, be seen with you, and that's not the case. One is an identity, and one is a sexuality. Yes. And that's just the simple difference between the two. Eventually, as both groups are fighting for their own personal interests, those are going to not work cohesively. So one is going to be quieter and one is going to get taken advantage of, etc. And it's not that we can't support the TQ+. Right. I just think that they're two vastly different things.
I think that you oversimplify.
Right on, Clarkson. And shout out to Clarkson because we actually follow each other on TikTok. I like him a lot. He's really funny. So check out his TikTok if you get a chance. And he's absolutely right. There is a clear difference between sexuality and preference and gender identity. Two completely different things. So when you mesh the two, it confuses people who are not a part of the community because now they can't differentiate between a gay man who maybe does drag and a transgender person who lives their entire life as the opposite sex that they were born as. Two different things. But when you mesh everything together, it just becomes one big blob. And it's hard to understand the differences because it's become political. And I think that does more damage overall, even to the trans community. It does more damage. Again, sexuality is not the same thing as gender identity. And it's funny too because liberals are the first ones to always scream and say that, but yet they want to mesh the two when it comes to these communities. And if you say, no, they should be separate, you're a bigot. Then they wonder why people are always so confused.
You oversimplify identity versus sexuality, though, because there are tons of men who identify as straight who have, on occasion, with regularity, once in their life, sex with men, which is why...
They're bi. I think once with men, sure, experimenting, but I think if there is a guy that's identifying as straight that sometimes dabbles with men,
might identify as straight people.
You're bi.
So two things. First of all, there are lots of gay men that we can call gay all day and all night that occasionally have sex with women, and we don't question whether or not they're gay.
They're bi.
But are you entitled to titling someone else's? Is that up to you?
The title is an objective fact. If you sleep with men and women, then you are bi.
Feelings versus facts. See the difference?
A lot of what's in the media today is sensationalized content about, you know, targeting children. A lot of it is valid and some of it is not. But a lot of times it's gay men that are doing it, and trans people are getting blamed for it when it's really gay men in drag. Right. And because the letters are together, people don't know the difference. And even when I first started coming out, the first thing that somebody said to me was, are you going to transition into a woman? And I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. That has nothing to do with my sexuality. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but because they're together from an outsider's point of view, optically, I think if our goal is to educate the populace on who we are, then we need to make a more clear distinction between LGB and TQ+.
No, I don't disagree. I think it's just important that if we do that, we don't erase any of the validity of the people who are in the group that
Absolutely.
we're not a part of. And also, what I wonder about in this context is some people are born intersex, so they have sexual organs of both genders. How do we,
What did I say?
under the criteria you guys have identified, how would we label them? Because if they
Intersex.
have both and they have sex with only one gender, what are they?
It's such a rare case. I'm not
But it
saying
does
they don't
exist.
exist.
I don't
it
think
does.
the exception makes the rule.
Yeah.
I gotta jump in real fast. So he's trying to make the argument that, which often happens whenever we talk about transgender issues, the biggest argument that the community always pulls up with is intersex. Intersex, intersex, intersex. Which I don't think is a strong argument because, like they've stated already, I believe his name is Amir, intersex is a minority. And like Clarkson said, the exception doesn't make the rule. So that's a moot point in my opinion. And also, it's important to note that most intersex people do not go through life saying, hi, my name is Karen and I'm intersex. Or hi, my name is Bob and I'm intersex. Most intersex people live based on one gender identity, whether that be female or male. Now, yes, they have both sexual organs, and at some point in time in the early years of their life, their family, their doctor decided what gender they were going to be, and they live as that gender. Very few, if any, intersex people go through life with the idea that on a Monday I'm gonna be a man, and then on Tuesday I'll go back to being a female, and then on Saturday I'll be both. No, they're either male or female. So the liberals' argument that, well, what about intersex people? They're both. Yeah, they're both, but they live as one gender. So again, stop trying to co-opt the intersex experience and use them as a scapegoat to make your argument stronger, because if anything, it just makes your argument weaker. Leave intersex people alone. They didn't ask to be brought in this conversation, so stop bringing them in it. Again, they are a minority in this discussion, and yet, because the argument is so weak, they will use the small minority to make a bigger point for the majority. Don't fall for it.
Yeah. Like
I
there's
think-
people born with 11
I think
fingers.
as human
There's
beings, we
people-
like to package things that we can develop a palette for. We like to make things more palatable. We like to establish clear-cut rubrics for what is and what isn't a person. I think that's just the natural human
It's how
tendency.
our brain categorizes
But
things.
but I think that, you know, what separates us from the apes is that we can give credence to these differences and create pockets of space, at least for a discussion, if you don't necessarily agree or whatever. You know.
I think it would be an incredible disservice to the transgender community who gave us a lot of the beginning for us to fight for our rights, a separation from them, now that we have our rights. That's just so privileged of us, like Marsha P. Johnson threw that first brick at Stonewall, and because of her...
She didn't throw the first brick.
Or the second, or the
She got there
third.
at 2 a.m., first of all, and second of all, Marsha P. Johnson was also a gay man, so when she was fighting for those rights, she was fighting for gay rights because she was gay.
Was she a
I
gay man
totally
because
agree.
Of the time that it was.
Don't mess with Clarkson.
So long after Stonewall Act. 'Cause
And
I
it's
passed
saying
one
it
of
doesn't
those
matter.
laws.
No one's
I
saying it
passed
doesn't
one of those
matter.
laws in Nebraska that protects children under the age of 18 from receiving gender affirming care and hormones. Because I've seen.
And you're proud of that.
Yes, I am very proud
I
of
am
that.
so ashamed
because,
of you.
Because I have friends who had their first
The
experience
amount
with
of
affirming care.
internalized
Can I
homophobia
finish?
and queerphobia and
But can I
shame that you
finish?
are sitting here
But
with
can I
because
finish?
of the stuff you felt as a child
I'm sure a lot of
is
us
so
disagree.
sad.
Here comes the emotions.
We both have
We
things
can
to say.
all talk, but like let's let. each
Because
other
when I
finish.
passed this legislation that you say targets LGBT people, I sat next to a young girl who her first experience with this type of care was a double mastectomy at 15. She's now 19, doesn't
And
know
how
if she'll be
common
able
is
to.
that?
It's
It's
actually
not.
very common because
How common? I want a number.
Can
How
I
common?
finish?
How common?
Can I
This
finish,
is, you
though?
passed
You're
the law.
asking me a question in the middle of my
You passed
statement.
a law. You
You're
passed a law that affects so many kids from feeling like
Yes, I
themselves.
did.
Transgender
I'm proud
kids.
of my law.
That's
God.
unfortunate, and I'm ashamed
If
of
that's
you
what it's
because...
going to take to get you to stop so I can finish my thought, I appreciate that.
All right, you know
So-
what? I'm going to shut up until you finish, but I would really like to say something when you're done.
Sure. The person that I testified with, who their experience was a
The
double
one
mastectomy.
person.
Let him
The
finish,
one
let him finish,
person.
let him finish,
Are you
let him
one
finish.
step
person.
in? Like
Let
can
him-
One person is too many. If a minor had a mastectomy and then realized it was a mistake because of the agenda and the indoctrination, that's one too many.
Let him
we
finish, let him
let
finish.
People talk.
Okay, that one person was one person in Nebraska, but I know a plethora of
what
other
state do you live in?
people.
Hold on, let him finish. Let
I
him
know a
finish.
plethora of other people in other states
The
all over this
generalizations
country.
are so easy. I
who
know a
are
plethora of
feeling-
people all over the
who-
country.
Let's pause.
Can
and
we
then
not
can-
do this?
we'll
Like
get
what is
it.
the what is
Okay.
what is the? Can we let them talk?
Let's just
You're gonna
pause.
get time to talk.
I don't
It's
appreciate
okay.
that.
I know, I'm furious too, but let's
here's
let him...
He can't. He's emotional. A liberal.
Just let him. You're gonna get your point out. Just let him.
I'm
talk.
good. Thank you.
Just let him talk.
Okay, let's pause.
You say how many people? You say it's a small subset. But for the people who it affects them for the rest of their lives. A decision they made as a child will affect them for the rest of their lives. This person will never feel their sensation on their chest. They don't know if they're going to ever be able to have a child, and they know they will never be able to breastfeed. They will never be a woman in the regular senses.
Right.
And this is happening more and more because we are conditioning our young people to say, hey, this is okay, this is okay. You can make these decisions. As a senior in this community, I have to say, wait a second, you guys are kids. Wait till you have your whole lives. Let's talk about this.
Honestly, shame on you for not going after the actual facts. I realize your anecdotal experiences move you, and I respect and appreciate that. But let's be perfectly clear.
Passive-aggressive compliments are not compliments. It's just condescending.
The most permanent thing a kid can go through is puberty, first of all. So when you deny a kid the opportunity to pause puberty, we're just talking, first of all, talking about puberty blockers.
Which straight kids do all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Yes, since the 80s, kids have been prescribed puberty blockers for a variety of reasons. And the law you passed prevents that. So you steal from kids who would like to be able to pause the ability to further. Fewer than 3% of people who do any kind of transition regret it and go back. Fewer than 3%. Finally, I want to make this very clear.
I don't care if it was fewer than 1%. Like I said, one is one too many. We're talking about children. We're not talking about adults. We're talking about kids. We're talking about 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds. And you're sitting here saying, who cares? It's a small minority. The same person who was using the intersex argument, a small minority, to make his bigger point. But now this small minority doesn't matter. I couldn't be on this panel because I would be going off.
I'm not done. You were so mean to everybody else who want to talk to you. My turn. There has been really robust standards of care laid out by all the leading medical associations that has been in existence for a long time, that is science-based, about guidelines for these things. But to be clear, the guidelines are very specific about this is supposed to be the parent's decision with their kid, with their medical provider. What you did was rob all those families of choices. Your opinion, because you believe you know better than science, you know better than parents, you know better than people who even do know themselves.
Emotional.
You're going to prevent them from having options because you personally have a problem with something that a couple of people and some other people you're aware of knew.
It sounds
None
like
of them are
something within
statistically
himself.
significant. Maybe you've got dozens of people you know of, hundreds. That's a teeny tiny little sliver. You will never know or know of all of these people, and yet you've decided for them, and shame on you for it.
I think we all can.
Shame on you, shame on you. You think that does anything? Who cares? I don't care if you don't like me or you want to try to shame me. What do you think this is, Game of Thrones?
Shame. Shame. Shame.
He cares about the kids. Thank you, Mario. You care about the kids. These other people, these liberals, they care about the emotions. And here's the thing, when he says, it's backed by these medical professional communities. Listen, politics is a real thing, okay? Just like the word cisgender was added to the Webster's Dictionary in, I believe, 2015, virtually very recent, it was political. And having agencies within the medical community suddenly say that being transgendered is not a mental disorder, in my opinion, was political. Look at Deborah Soh, a neuroscientist who was ostracized and blacklisted by the scientific community and the medical community because she refused to buy into the political agenda from that community. If you speak truth, you get canceled. And nowadays, we don't deal with a disorder, we affirm it. Because it's political. Say it with me, people. Political. So when he brings up these organizations and says, well, they agree with it, they back this up, they back that up, yeah, of course they're going to. You know why? Because it's political. And they also make a huge profit from gender-affirming care, especially for minors. They make money. Since when do we just sit back and trust the pharmaceutical companies as if they don't have a stake financially in what gets passed?
Even though he's passed legislation, over 18, you don't care what they do.
I don't care what they do.
You're just more so protecting the kids.
He's protecting
that
kids
are
he doesn't
going
have.
His laws more so protecting those kids that are just tomboys, tomgirls, that are just they're being force fed this idea like, oh, I'm gay, maybe I'm a girl, and then like they're just like pink. They like are more feminine and just oh, actually transition. And
I don't think it's that simple.
And
I just hate that this is such an absolutist discussion on both sides because it's like you guys are like, no, there's nothing. No, don't.
I'm not being absolute.
I'm not being absolute either.
Okay, but I
Please
just
don't
don't
put words
think,
in my mouth.
Okay,
I'm disappointed that someone
Can you let me
is
talk,
proud
please?
to sit
Can you
here
let me
and
talk?
pass a law that harms children.
I got
when
it.
we know that our
we
queer
know your
community
point. We got it. We know your
is
point.
so harmed already.
All I'm saying is that your guys are not making space for the people who have gone through this process and regret it. I personally know someone in the same situation that you were in, and I'm not sitting here arguing for either side because I think this is a very nuanced discussion. It used to be a 2-year process. Now it's 6 months. Those things are changing because the capital and the motive behind it is now, which I'm sure that you guys on this side are against capitalistic, healthcare. That's pushing it. And those guidelines, yes.
Yes.
There's a lot of money to be made in gender-affirming care.
A lot of money to the
really?
doctors who
I just said this.
Child that gets on it. That's throughout their lifetime. That's how much that
There
farmer
are so
makes
many
from
other
it.
things that kids get that make people more money.
I
than
understand that, but you're not leaving any room for nuance in this discussion.
Actually, I would argue that you guys aren't leaving room for nuance because you make a decision.
I never said a statement.
Well, okay,
on
I
it.
apologize. And for those of you that I have been mean to, I'm sorry. I love and respect all of you as people.
I don't think it's me. I
Nuance
just think it's
is
a lie.
valuable, and that's why we leave it up to the parents and the medical professionals and the individuals who are making these decisions. There are people who get hair plugs and regret it. There are people who get nose jobs and regret it.
Those are adults. We're talking about children. You emotional person. We're not talking about adult. Again, the argument here is about children. Mario, the law that Mario passed or that he helped pass was about protecting children. It wasn't about adults. So you bringing up hair plugs, which is something that grown adult men usually get, is not the same thing. They're just not getting it. And that's the problem. They're so focused on their emotional argument that they can't see past their emotions. Can't see past it. And as they said, it's not your kid, so who cares?
There is no such
Well,
thing.
we don't
There's
give
no,
hair
I'm not-
plugs and
there is
nose
no-
jobs to kids.
there-
But
no,
kids can get
the
nose
point is-
jobs,
okay,
can get
pause.
breast jobs. Of course, kids are getting this all the time.
Oh, she's waiting on us.
Sorry, I think it sounds like we're not really going to find a middle ground between some of you.
We will have to hug.
But can I actually sort of like
I'd like to know what child is getting a breast augmentation. Please tell me. Because any doctor willing to do a breast augmentation on a child should be in jail. And I'm not just talking about a mastectomy for gender affirming care. I'm talking about implants. He just said there are kids who get nose jobs and breast augmentations all the time. Really? In what state? Because if you're under the age of 18 and you're going to a doctor and they're giving you a breast augmentation to get breast implants and you are underage, that should be illegal. All right, guys, I'm going to do another quick reaction or my analysis on the other topics that I won't be going over in this video. So the next topic is drag shows are too sexual for minors. You guys already know, if you've been on my channel, that I 110% believe that drag shows are not appropriate for children. I don't personally have an issue with drag shows for adults. I've seen RuPaul's Drag Race. Don't care. Those are adults. Do what you want to do. Have fun. The reason why most drag shows, majority if not all, are done in bars and nightclubs is because it is for adult entertainment. Now suddenly it has transitioned into children entertainment and family friendly, and that, in my opinion, is only being done to politicize the argument, to make it seem as though, look, it's family friendly, it's fine, it's okay, to make it acceptable for everybody. And again, you're using children as the gatekeepers, right? You're using children as the scapegoats to further your political position, and I think that is disgusting. Children should not be at drag shows. Drag shows are and have always been a form of adult entertainment, not for kids. See some of the other prompts that I won't be doing in this video. I would date a trans man. No. LGBTQ topics should be taught in school. I think it depends on how you teach the topics. I think that talking about the history is perfectly fine, but there is a fine line between teaching and indoctrination. When you have rainbow flags everywhere, that isn't teaching, that's indoctrination. And we have clearly crossed the line in public schools, which is why I'm a huge advocate for homeschooling, because the public school system has become a political arena for adults who need affirmation, and the kids are the ones that are dealing with the effects. If you're gonna teach it in an objective way. But if you're teaching it to force it upon people or to make it the norm amongst children, which is what they do with gender ideology, I'm against that. 100% against that. All right, that's it, guys. I really wanted to just talk about the whole trans versus the LGB divorce or separation, because that to me was the most important and I think the most interesting topic in the entire debate. Other topics are definitely interesting as well. If you guys want to see the full video, I will have a link in my description where you guys can watch the entire full video and every single segment. If you guys want to see me react in more detail to any other specific topics, let me know and maybe I'll do it in the future. But yeah, I just had to vent. I just had to speak my mind, speak my piece, because once again, the liberal argument is always emotions, and it's just so frustrating when you're trying to have an actual debate with somebody and you're giving them numbers and you're giving them statistics and you're giving them facts and they're rejecting it based on their emotions. Telling somebody that you're debating with, I'm ashamed of you, not a very strong argument. Something tells me that Mario, the conservative, doesn't really care if a liberal is ashamed of him. In fact, if you're a liberal and you're ashamed of me, that means I'm doing something right. So please, liberals, be ashamed of me, cancel me, hate me. I'll be forever thankful. If you enjoy my content, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit my notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video. If you guys want to follow me on other social media platforms, I am also available on TikTok and on Instagram under CurlyBoyChuck. Until next time, peace.